Welcome to the Leadership and Learning Podcast with Dr. JBT, where we dive deep into the art of leadership for emerging and advancing leaders. Whether you're just starting out or looking to sharpen your skills, this podcast is your go-to resource. We'll explore real-world scenarios, actionable solutions, and expert advice with insights drawn from Dr. JBT's own experiences and interviews with seasoned leaders. If you're serious about growing as a leader, you've come to the right place. Welcome back to Leadership and Learning with Dr. JBT. I have been thinking a lot lately about how leaders spend their time. I'm finding that leaders have differing perspectives on the matter, of course. I want to focus really on how much time leaders should focus in the business versus on the business. So what do I mean by working in the business? I mean being immersed in the day-to-day. This is where you manage operations, keep things running smoothly, and respond to what's right in front of you. You're answering questions for your team, monitoring productivity and quality, tracking progress toward goals, and attending regular meetings with both your team and your boss. You're likely coordinating with other departments whose work impacts yours and vice versa to solve problems as they arise. The challenge is that the day-to-day often feels urgent. Leaders spending a lot of time in the business say they don't have time to be strategic. They're just trying to keep their head above water. Do you ever feel like that? I often hear, all I do is put out fires. All I do is put out fires. That's exactly what it feels like, firefighting. You're constantly reacting, moving from blaze to blaze, handling emergencies in the moment. And is it necessary? Well, yeah, sometimes it absolutely is. But if that's all you're doing, you are stuck in survival mode. I once asked a leader who admitted she was just surviving. And I asked her what it would take for her to shift from survive to thrive. That shift begins by stepping out of firefighting and into prevention. So what is working on the business? I mean, stepping back to strategize for the long term. This is where you move from putting out fires to designing systems that prevent them in the first place. It's about solving root problems rather than applying short-term Band-Aids. How many of you have a lot of Band-Aids in your workplace, right? I know we do. Here you scan the environment for emerging opportunities or threats, evaluate technology that could streamline processes, or consider broader industry changes. How many of you are asking yourself, how is AI going to shape the future of your team? This is where you set next year's goals, study lagging data, and anticipate what might be needed down the road. Let's stay with the fire analogy. Think of a fire marshal. Unlike firefighters, the marshal isn't rushing from blaze to blaze. Instead, they're inspecting buildings, identifying risks, installing alarms. They're thinking ahead, designing systems, and ensuring safety before flames ever spark. Leaders who make time to be fire marshals create stability and resilience for their teams. Both aspects of leadership, working in the business as a firefighter and working on the business as a fire marshal, are essential. The challenge is balance. Too often, leaders confuse activity with progress and get stuck in the day-to-day. Let me say that again. Too often, leaders confuse activity with progress and get stuck in the day-to-day. Constantly reacting to flames keeps leaders busy, but prevents real progress. There's no time to advance, innovate, and ensure the organization stays competitive when every day is consumed by emergencies. You cannot ignore the fires in front of you. Let me tell you, you do not want to ignore the fires in front of you, but you also cannot spend all your energy rushing from blaze to blaze without ever stepping back to ask why the sparks keep flying. If you only live in the day-to-day, you risk exhaustion and stagnation, and you will never have space to prevent the next fire. That's where stepping back becomes critical. Leaders must zoom out, ask why the same problems keep resurfacing, and dedicate time to solving root causes. Without this discipline, you remain trapped in an endless cycle. Fires keep burning, energy keeps draining, and true improvement and advancement never happens. However, if you only live in the strategic, think about that fire marshal, You lose credibility and connection with your team's immediate challenges and are unable to put out the day-to-day fires. How can we navigate this delicate balance? Here are a few ways I have approached this challenge. So here's my recommendation number 1. Track and audit your time. Just as you would never manage a budget without knowing where your money is going, you cannot lead effectively without knowing where your time is going. Leaders often think they're spending time strategically. I hear this all the time. I think strategically, I'm doing it about 50% of my week. But in reality, the calendar tells a very different story. Do a calendar audit. At the end of each week, review your calendar and categorize each meeting or task. Is it operational, day-to-day, or is it strategic and future-focused? This creates awareness of where your energy is going. Second, meeting mix. Ask yourself, are my meetings focused only on solving today's problems? Or do they include conversations about where our industry, technology, or profession is headed? A healthy mix is critical. So again, as you're tracking and auditing your time, look at your meetings. And lastly, one-on-one conversations. What do check-ins with your employees look like? Are they balanced? Are you spending all your time giving corrective action for today's issues and progress toward goals? Or are you also investing in their professional development, career goals, and preparing them for what's next? Are you asking them about what doesn't work well for them and ideas for fixing those problems? Track and audit your time. Calendar audit. What is your meeting mix? What do your one-on-one conversations look like? Recommendation number 2, identify patterns, not just problems. Fires are going to come up. They come up for a reason. The job of a leader is not to just put them out, but to figure out what's fueling them. Okay? Think root cause. Because if you don't find the root cause, then you are only solving for a symptom, not the actual cause of what is happening. Think of the last time you had a headache. Maybe you took a Tylenol. That's treating the symptom. But wouldn't it be better to know why you had that headache? Maybe you needed more water. Maybe you needed to eat something. Maybe you have been staring at your computer for too long. Identifying why you have a headache helps you prevent future headaches. So if it was your computer, maybe you make it a point to every hour get up and walk down the hall and come back just to rest your eyes a little bit. Now you're preventing the headache because you addressed the root cause. Identify patterns, not just problems. How do we do this? Track reoccurring issues. Keep a log of problems and complaints from your team, from others. Patterns reveal systemic gaps. Patterns reveal systemic gaps. If the same issue comes up repeatedly, that's a signal for an on-the-business initiative. I currently have a complaint tracker. Every time I hear a complaint from a customer, an employee, or a leader, I track it. It helps me know where my division has recurring issues. It gives me an on-the-business initiative. Second, ask questions. Capture suggestions. Employees often see the gaps that you miss. Build time into staff meetings or your one-on-ones to ask, what would make your job easier? What obstacles do you run into every week? Their answers often point directly to process improvement opportunities. For me, I include specific times throughout the year to gather this feedback. Employees know what is broken and often have the best solution to fix those problems. So build out intentional time to hear from them. Lastly, define your fire. Reflect. Reflect on those reoccurring issues. Reflect on what your employees tell you is broken. And what is one fire that people expect you to put out? That fire is your biggest opportunity for prevention. Okay, the last recommendation. Protect sacred strategy time. If you don't intentionally set aside time for on-the-business work, the fires of the day will always consume it. Okay, hear me when I say that. If you do not intentionally set aside time for on-the-business work, the fires of the day will always consume it. I regularly get double booked and sometimes triple booked. Those meetings are both in the day-to-day and future-focused. However, I have to block time for me to think and do some of this work on my own. And I like to call it think time. And my think time is sacred time. Carve out non-negotiable blocks. Start with 2 hours per week. I call mine think time. Consider this the minimum strategy time per week. And you can't look at the day-to-day. It is your time to think about the fires that you have in your workplace, the problems you have, dig to the root, and start designing prevention programs. What's your intervention to prevent that future fire? Block your schedule. Second, guard it fiercely. It will be tempting, so tempting, even urgent, to let daily fires take over this time. Don't. Treat it as if you have a meeting with the president of your company. It's immovable. You wouldn't reschedule with your president, would you? So do not reschedule your think time. Guard it fiercely. And lastly, create output each week. Don't just think strategically. Produce something. Write down a process improvement idea. Outline a system change or document a preventative measure. Over time, these outputs become your roadmap for lasting improvement. Protect your sacred time. So your 3 strategies: track and audit your time, identify patterns, not just problems, protect sacred strategy time. Here are a few takeaways that I hope you leave with today. Busy doesn't equal progress. Ooh, that one's tough. Busy doesn't equal progress. Sustainable leadership means being both the firefighter and the fire marshal. It is about meeting immediate needs while building a stronger future. It is a delicate balance between work in the business and work on the business. Make time for both. This is Leadership Learning with Dr. JBT signing off.